Hello, everybody. This will be on YouTube. It's an interview for Positive Life Winter Edition, and we're going to have our positive therapy. This issue is the emotion code. And we have a great guest. His name is Bradley Nelson, and he's been practicing this. He's discovered this. I presume this came from God. Is that where it came from, Bradley?
Well, it definitely didn't come from me. Uh, I was um, I was in the habit of asking for help, from God. Uh, with every person that I saw for many, many years, it was just a totally private, totally personal habit. And when a patient came in to see me, before I would go to work on them, I felt like God's gotten me into this, and maybe God will help me. And so I would just say a silent prayer, and it was a habit that I had. It was a totally private, totally personal habit. Nobody ever knew that I was saying a prayer for them, but I was. I mean, as far as they were concerned, it was just a momentary pause on my part. But the interesting thing is that there were times, not often, but once in a while, information would just flood in response to that prayer. And so I know that God is aware of us. He's aware of everything we're doing all the time, and I absolutely know that that's true, because sometimes a patient would come in and I didn't know how to help them, didn't know how to approach their problem, and then information would just flood in after the prayer, not before, but after. So I've proven to myself that the old saying, "Ask and ye shall receive, and knock and it shall be opened to you," is definitely true.
And what is the prayer, Bradley?
Well, for me, it wasn't a specific
Sure.
any kind of a written or memorized prayer. It was basically just, Father in heaven, thank you for this opportunity to help this person, and please help me to figure out what they really need. Some variation on that, in the name of Jesus Christ, Amen. As a Christian, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day
Mm,
Saints,
okay.
and contrary to popular opinion, we're very, very much Christians, and so that's how I would do it. And we teach people all over the world. We have 15,000 plus practitioners now that have gone through our certification training in 108 countries. And so we have people of all different kinds of religions and so on. But what we tell people is that if you have a faith tradition, or if you believe in a higher power, uh, you want to draw upon that power, because the healing power doesn't come from you. It comes from God. It comes, and God goes by different names, of course, depending on
Sure.
your belief system and so on. Source energy, the creator, whatever. But I think that, if you and I believe in a higher power, uh, we might call that higher power by different names, but we're probably talking about the same thing. So we definitely recommend that, because we believe that the highest duty of the healer is to really act as a go-between for that higher power.
That's really very good advice. It's simple, but it's very, very important. And with your background before this, what was your modality you were practicing before the emotion code?
Well, um, I was a doctor of chiropractic,
Oh,
and
okay. I had a,
so
I had a, I had a feeling, yeah.
yeah, and so I was trained in a number of different methods, and I would use those in a kind of a blended way, depending on which person I was trying to help, and but I was always driven to really fix people, to really get to the underlying causes of people's problems. I wanted to know um, why people were sick, and I wanted to be able to fix them as fast as I possibly could. And so that was one of the reasons why I was praying all the time for guidance. At the same time, I'm reading everything I can find, studying everything that I can get a hold of, new things, old things, ancient ways of looking at things, trying to understand this whole picture. And the fascinating thing is, as time went on, uh, it actually became simpler, and pieces fell into place. And I began to understand how things really work. And, the amazing thing is now, I mean, back then it was just me. The knowledge was in my head, and I had taught some seminars in different places. And my wife shared the same knowledge with me. But it was in about 2003 that my wife was reading the scriptures one day and came across this verse that essentially said, you need to sell everything you own. I'm taking you someplace completely different. And that struck her, and she knew that that was a message from up above for us. And so she showed it to me. And I also got the same message that, okay, this is actually a message for us, which was really an interesting experience. And so we sold our practice and moved to a totally different area and started working on this book, The Emotion Code. And it came out in 2007. And the Emotion Code, of course, is about emotional baggage. And during those years that we had our practice, what I found was that my patients all had something in common. No matter how young or old they were, no matter what they'd been diagnosed with, whether it was something physical or mental or emotional, um, what I found was that they all had something in common. And what they had in common was their emotional baggage. And that baggage differed for all of them because we all through different things in our lives. But what I found was that 90% of all the physical pain that my patients had was actually because of emotional baggage. And I should back up a little bit too, because, well, first of all, this probably looks really strange. Uh,
We should probably mention that for people watching. Yeah. So you're recording an audio book right now, and to get the best sound, you're in the closet. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. We tried different rooms in our house, and we're recording our new book that is about to be released in December. It's called The Heart Code, and we're doing the audio version of that book and with Macmillan. And we tried different rooms, and it turned out that our closet is the best room, and so that's where everything is set up today because we're recording tomorrow. And so these are my wife's shoes, and I have a pair of shoes somewhere. But
In there, in that
yes,
pile?
no, I think my shoes are up above.
Okay,
Uh,
you're allowed a couple by the looks of it.
I got
Okay.
a couple shoes. She has, yeah, and I don't cross her either.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is a question that came to me today, I'm sure you've been asked all these questions, but here's one, right?
Okay.
Because you've been working and you've been seeing so many people, I'm sure, transform their lives by releasing some kind of pivotal emotions that they've been holding on to. And we think of work like Gabor Mate, issues in the tissues. We know what the body does. It
Mhm.
basically holds and keeps the score. You might think you've forgiven someone, you might think you've moved on, but your body is holding that thing. And this is what your work does. It gets into the body. It bypasses, I suppose, the personality, the mind, and it gets right into the body. But what I'd like to ask you is when you're going through life yourself, do you feel, oh my God, there's an emotion going into my body right now? Or would you be that acute yourself when you're actually, oh, I'm after having a conflict with someone. I can feel my body taking this on. Like, could you release it in the moment yourself? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think that the formation of what we call a trapped emotion is something that we are generally unaware of.
Okay.
However, I do think that sometimes, I do think that sometimes if you're having a particularly intense emotional experience, and you might suddenly feel a pain in your neck or somewhere in the body. I think that may be the formation of one of these trapped emotions. Let me explain how this process really works.
Yeah.
Um, what happens to us, and first of all, you have to understand that the body itself is just a very complex energy field. You talk to any physicist, and they'll tell you, well, yes, if you get down to the level of the atom and beyond, we know we're made of atoms, and atoms are really made of nothing but energy. In fact, I heard that a few years ago, some physicists said that if you could remove all the empty space between all the atoms in everyone's body on Earth, you could fit all 8 billion or so people in the world into a box the size of a sugar cube. And we can't wrap our heads around that. But nevertheless, that is apparently the reality. Well, everything is energy, right? Nikola Tesla said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And Albert Einstein also said that the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. And I think probably when he said that, nobody had any idea what he was talking about except his closest nerd buddies. But when you're feeling an intense emotion, uh, you're feeling a specific vibration of energy. Every emotion has its own specific frequency, right? And since everything is energy, that just makes sense. Well, normally what happens is we feel emotions in response to something that's occurred. Some stimulus has happened. Someone has said something to you, or you've seen something, or heard something, or read something, or whatever. And a certain emotion begins to come up for you. And most of the time, what happens is we simply acknowledge that emotional frequency, that feeling, and we allow it to dissipate its energy and go away. And that is how we should deal with emotions. We should kind of observe them and then allow them to dissipate and go away.
Mhm.
And so I refer to that as the emotional loop. Okay. Um, but sometimes what happens is an emotion comes up for us and maybe we don't want to go there. And we're busy and maybe we just don't want to feel that emotion. And so we stop that process. We bury that emotion, but it's still there, right? We bury it and we move on. That's one way that we develop trapped emotions. Another way is sometimes things happen to us that are just overwhelming. Your partner says that he or she is leaving you, or someone suddenly has a terrible accident or dies, or something else happens. These traumatic things happen that are overwhelming, and those are difficult to process. And so those emotional energies also become trapped sometimes in the body. The other way that we trap emotional energies is if an emotional experience is beginning to happen to us and we decide that we're going to take that emotion and run with it, and we're not only going to feel a little bit of resentment, for example, we're going to really feel resentment or anger or whatever it is, and we become really upset. And so we're artificially enhancing that vibration of that emotion. And those are often situations where later we're kind of embarrassed because we kind of flew off the handle and didn't really need to
Mhm.
get that upset. But those situations also will create these emotional energies in the body. And so a trapped emotion is a ball of energy from about the size of a baseball to about the size of a softball or a small cantaloupe. And these lodge in the body and they can affect us in all kinds of ways. Like I said, they cause most of the physical pain that we experience, but they also cause our personalities to be distorted a bit
Mhm.
in many cases. Uh, there are many, many, many cases that I have seen, more than I can count, where a person's personality actually changed for the better when that emotional baggage was removed because their emotions of depression or grief or vulnerability or hopelessness were interfering with their ability to really enjoy life or really be happy. And it's an amazing thing. But what I found in practice was astonishing. And that was that every disease process that I saw during about 18 years of practice, and since then as well, I've been doing this now for about 36 years. Um, every disease process that I've seen um, had an emotional component to it. And I absolutely believe that if you've been diagnosed with a disease, there's an emotional component to that disease picture. Now, sometimes the emotional component is the biggest piece of the puzzle. Sometimes it's the only piece of the puzzle. Sometimes an emotional energy is powerful enough that it can actually lead to disease. Um, and these emotions lodge in the body, and wherever they lodge, they tend to distort the normal energy field of the body. And so, depending on where they lodge, they can cause different kinds of problems. For example, if a trapped emotion lodges in your throat, uh, you might end up having thyroid issues. If a trapped emotion lodges in your stomach, you might develop ulcers. And that might have actually occurred because maybe you couldn't stomach what was going on in your life. There's a lot of interesting
Mhm.
aspects of this. But that's why I wrote the book, The Emotion Code, because I learned that this process to find emotional baggage and get rid of it is actually really simple. Anybody can do it. And that book was written specifically for anybody to use. In fact, even children can use it. But trapped emotions also contribute to things like anxiety, to phobias, panic attacks, post traumatic stress disorder, eating disorders, self sabotage of all kinds, and things like infertility and asthma and digestive disorders. I mean, I have seen trapped emotions as an underlying cause of every disease process in the emotion code. And now in the heart code, there's a long list of all these problems that people have where emotional baggage was a component. And it's a component in every disease. So if you think about your own life and what's going on with you, or you think about the people around you, is there someone around you that is having a hard time conceiving a child, or that is dealing with depression or anxiety, or that's dealing with physical pain? Physical pain to me is the most unbelievable thing that 9 out of 10 times when people are in physical pain, and I'm talking about even severe physical pain, even pain that's been going on for 40 or 50 years or more, when you release the emotional baggage that's connected with that pain, 9 times out of 10, that pain is gone. And it can be gone in as little as, I mean, sometimes it's gone literally within seconds. So the word about this had to get out to the world. I couldn't just sit on this. It wasn't just for me and my own little practice. And that's what I knew. That's why I wrote the book, why I travel all over the world, why I do interviews. It's what motivates me.
Why you do interviews in closets? Because you want to get it out there to
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly.
Um,
Lovely.
yeah. So, when we think about so thoughts produce, when we think a thought, it produces chemicals like cortisol or whatever. We think a negative thought. So that loop of thought, emotion, and trapped emotion, where are you in that kind of whole cycle, Bradley? What is do you know what I mean? Is the thoughts of shame and guilt causing the emotion to get trapped? Is the emotion coming first? What do you see happening there in that loop?
Well, I I look at everything from the energetic point of view because I believe Einstein, and he said that the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. And so if we look at everything in terms of energy and frequency and vibration, as Tesla said, then we realize that every emotion is a different frequency. And those emotions that we feel can be thought of as being good or bad, but they're not really. They're just messages from the subconscious, right? And so let's say that something happens to you and someone is really hurting you, really abusing you, for example. There are going to be emotions that are going to be felt as a natural response to what's happening to you. Now, those emotions, those emotional energies can become trapped in the body if we allow them to. If we try to bury that emotion, for example, or if it's overwhelming, or if we artificially enhance it. And so what happens is that emotional energy becomes trapped in the body. And again, it's like a little ball of energy. And those energies can lodge in the body uh, really anywhere. They'll often lodge in an area where you might have some pre existing condition going on. Maybe
Hmm.
you have, maybe you've had some kind of, maybe a little bit of trauma somewhere, or maybe an infection or some kind of weakness. Um, for example, here's a funny story. When I was in practice, a man came in to see me one day with his wife, and his arm was in a sling. And he had tennis elbow, just terrific pain, right in here in this part of the arm. And that's why his arm was in the sling. And I tested him and started working with him as a chiropractor, realigning bones and things. And after a couple of weeks, he was not getting any better. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something emotional going on with this. This is when I was first learning about emotions. And this guy, his arm was in a sling, and I basically could not touch this area without exquisite pain on his part. So I started asking some questions. Now, what you have to understand is that I was a computer programmer. I became a programmer back in about 1980. And so that helped me to understand how our bodies are computers too. And there's a computer within each of us that has all the answers about what's really wrong with us. And so we can ask questions and get answers. So I started asking questions and using muscle testing, asking questions, testing his other arm. I was getting strong answers for yes and weak answers for no. And this is what we call kinesthetic testing. It goes by different names. If I were
Hmm.
there with you, if you were to hold your arm out and say the word love, for example, I could press down on your arm and you'd probably stay strong. If you were to say the word hate, you'd weaken. And so we can ask questions. And so I started asking questions and I asked if there was anything emotional going on with this guy's elbow. And the answer was yes. And there was a trapped emotion. And remember, he's 42 years old, and this is back when he was in high school. It dates back to about age 18, I find. And so he's thinking about it. I think I don't remember the exact emotion. It was grief or sadness or something. But it turned out that there were 5 or 6 trapped emotions that had become trapped in his arm during high school. And it turned out that he was playing tennis at the time. He was on the school tennis team. So he's playing tennis all day long, well, or every day anyway. And he's incurring micro trauma to the muscle here. And so that when a girl would break up with him or a relationship wouldn't work out, that emotional energy would go right to that spot. And so it's really funny because his wife is sitting there and I'm asking questions and he's saying, well, let's see, was it Sheila? No. Was it Charlotte? No. Cheryl? No. Was it Wanda? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, Wanda. And but the amazing thing is, and his wife is sitting there kind of rolling her eyes. But every time we would release one of these trapped emotions from high school, the pain level would drop. And it dropped, dropped, dropped until we cleared the last emotion. And at that point, he had no more pain. I was able to go in there, and where he had exquisite pain before, it was gone. He was able to get rid of his sling. I mean, he could not even turn the key to start his car before. It was so painful. And all the pain was completely gone. And that was one of the first experiences that I had with this. Really amazing. Another experience around that time was a woman that came in to see me. I'd seen her before. She had been a patient, but it'd been probably a few months. She comes in one day. She thinks she's having a heart attack. And she's got crushing chest pain, difficulty breathing. Her left arm's totally numb. Left side of her face is numb. And I told my staff, look, we might need an ambulance. This looks like a heart attack, but just give me 1 minute with her. And so I started doing some testing on her and found that she had a trapped emotion of grief. And it had occurred 3 years before. Now, it took about a minute to figure this out. And when I arrived at that, all of a sudden she burst into tears. And she says, I can't believe that's affecting me. I thought I dealt with all that. And I said, well, what happened to you? And she said that 3 years before, her husband was having an affair and she didn't know about it. She suddenly figured it out and confronted him with the evidence. And it just, the marriage blew up and it was over. And she was so in love with that guy and thought she'd be with him forever. And she was just so deeply betrayed. And she eventually got over it and she spent a year in therapy dealing with it mentally and had even recently gotten remarried. So as far as she was concerned, that guy was just her ex, the guy that dumped her.
Hmm.
She was moving on with her life, but as far as her body was concerned, that intense grief emotion was still right there. And I released that trapped emotional energy, which just takes seconds. Within about 3 seconds, the feeling came back into her arm, into her face. The chest pain was gone. The difficulty breathing was gone. 10 minutes later, she left the office after joking with me and my staff. She and I are still connected. She's got a horse ranch in Oregon. And I'll tell you something. I think that it's very likely that if she'd have gone to the hospital, they would have thought she was having a heart attack. But I think that in her case, if they would have tested her, I think they would have found that her heart enzymes were normal, that it wasn't really a heart attack, it was something else. Well, now we know that people can die from a broken heart. And I think that's exactly what would have happened to her. I think that probably 5 or 10 years down the road, You know, this is a long time ago, 30 plus years ago. But I think probably 5 or 10 years down the road, um, she would have had a heart attack and would have been the end of her. And nobody at the funeral would have realized it was really her husband's affair that ended her life. And so
Wow.
these are the
So
invisible things that go on that we're
the
bringing to
body really
light.
keeps the score, yeah.
It really does.
It really
Yeah.
does. So the process itself, Bradley, so you're identifying using kinesiology
Mhm.
with the person's kind of arm, you're identifying the trapped emotion, where it's situated in the body,
Mhm.
and also the year you're able to track all this. That actual process you came up with yourself or was kind of downloaded to you in a sense?
Well, it that process called kinesthetic testing, or
Hmm.
sometimes it's referred to as applied kinesiology, I did not come up with. It was another man, Dr. George Goodhart, who came up with that process back in the 1960s in the U.S. And I remember I had an experience when I was first newly married. My wife and I have been married for 44 years now. We've got 8 kids and 7 grandkids. But when we were first married, my wife was really sick, and so eventually I took her to see this doctor, Dr. Stan Flagg in Kalispell, Montana. And I just sat in the corner and watched. And he was testing supplements for her. And he was using
Yeah.
her arm.
Hmm.
And he would put supplements in her hand, pills in her hand, and he would add pills. And when he got to a certain point, um, she'd go weak. And so we went home with a whole box of these supplements. But I remember sitting there watching him thinking, okay, this guy's either really on to something, or this is a huge scam.
Hmm.
So we took home this big box of supplements, and she starts taking those, and within about a week it completely pulled her out of it. And I
Wow.
mean, she was sick to the point that when I would go to work in the morning, she had enough energy to get up and make me breakfast, and then she'd go back to bed and just cry because she was so sick. And in one week she was completely well. So that made me a believer. So
Mm.
I began playing with this, and but it was a process that really occurred over many years. Being a computer programmer really helped me because I had done a little bit of work with the binary and understanding at the basic level how computers work, and computer programs and software and your keyboard and everything ultimately comes down to either a one or a zero, a plus or a minus. And the human body, the human computer, the subconscious mind within us is also a binary computer. And so it can only answer questions with a yes or a no. And so muscle testing works great. And you can try this.
Hmm.
You can all try this. Those of you that are listening or watching this,
Hmm.
um, go to a friend of yours or someone that you know, have them hold their arm out parallel to the floor and have them make a true statement. For example, if your friend's name is Bob, have your friends say, "My name is Bob." That's a true statement. If you press down on Bob's arm at that point, Bob should be able to resist your downward pressure. But if you have Bob tell a lie or say something incongruent, like if Bob says, "My name is Jim," and you press
Hmm.
down, their arm is going to weaken. And this is something that's been known about for a long, long time. All that I've done is taken this unique interface, if you will, of the subconscious mind and taken it to its logical conclusion, because the subconscious mind knows everything. It remembers everything you've ever done, every face you've ever seen in a crowd, everything you've ever eaten or tasted or touched or smelled. The whole history of your health or disease is all logged in this computer within us that I believe is beyond our ability to comprehend. And so we know what it does. We observe that the subconscious takes care of all these trillions of chemical reactions and keeps the heart beating and creates millions of new cells every minute. We know that it does all of that, but we don't really understand it. And it's because it's divine, because we're divine beings. And we're finally waking up to that fact, which I think is really exciting.
It is really exciting, and you can feel it all over the place right now.
Yeah, you can.
And then the magnets, Bradley, you run the magnets down. I had a session actually about a week ago with a lady here in very close to my house because I wanted to try it out before I spoke to you. So she ran the magnet down the back of down my back.
Mhm.
So basically on my spine. Is that kind of the body's main meridian line? Is that what that is? Or
Yeah, it is. We use the governing meridian. Now, the meridians were discovered, probably around 5,000 years ago. And they are little rivers of energy in the body that lie just under the skin. Uh, we use the governing meridian, which is an energy reservoir and a very key, very important meridian in the body. And that's why it's called the governing meridian. And it starts at the tailbone and goes straight up the back, over the top of the head to the inside of the upper lip. And what we have found is that when you're releasing a trapped emotional energy, you can use a magnet of any kind, any polarity, any strength, or you can just use your hand because your hand is also magnetic. And you can just swipe over that meridian a few times at that point when that emotion is ready to be released and you've gone through the emotion code process. And just swiping a few times will release that emotional energy. Now, if it's an inherited emotional energy, because guess what? At conception, we receive emotional energy. I think
hmm
all of us from mom or dad that might have
hmm
received it when they were conceived from their mom or dad. And these can go back for generations. Um, in fact, I'll tell you something. My ancestors on my father's side were from Ireland. They were from
Okay.
actually from Muff up in near in the Donegal area,
Okay.
and so I had emotional baggage from some of them that needed to be released. And they came over, around the time of the potato famine. And so, these things happen to us. And and then we pass them down to our descendants. It's a fascinating thing. Scientists know that this works now. They know that this happens. They don't know how it works. They're looking at the DNA under a microscope, trying to figure out how in the world this is happening. But they know that it happens, and it's really an incredible thing. But we all have emotional baggage. There's a book written recently about the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors, and they found that these people whose grandparents went through the Holocaust are different from normal people. Their DNA is a little bit different. They're more susceptible to disease and to stress, and their blood markers for aging are accelerated, and so on. And so it's a very, very real thing. Emotional energy is not only, it means not only the emotional energy you picked up during your lifetime, but it also means what you might have picked up, well, during the time you were in the womb or at the moment of conception from mom or dad. And that's really an interesting thing and very powerful
And
sometimes.
yeah, and when you work with someone, Bradley, are you tuning into the one that needs to be shifted right away, the biggest one? How does the body just tells you, does the body go straight and say, this is a big one, this person needs to release this right now? Or is it just depends on, what does it that depend on?
Well, I'll tell you what's really interesting. The subconscious mind is more like Google um, than anything else. You can ask questions. The subconscious mind, the subconscious Google understands your intention. And
Okay.
if your intention is that you want the biggest, most damaging emotional energy you can find, it will usually give it to you. Um, it's really interesting. It's very literal. For example, let's say I'm working with you,
Mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with low back pain. Um, if I am working with you and I ask a question like, okay, can we release a trapped emotion now that is if I just say, can we release a trapped emotion now, we'll probably get one from you and we'll release it, but it may not have anything to do with your back pain, even though it might be 9 on a 0 to 10 scale. On the other hand, if I ask, can we release a trapped emotion from you that's contributing to your back pain, that narrows down the options dramatically. And then the subconscious mind is forced to give you back a more pertinent, more relevant answer. It's a
Okay.
fascinating thing, but absolutely the subconscious mind, it's a computer beyond our ability to comprehend. And it's aware of things that we are absolutely not aware of. In fact, let me tell you a story. Um, there was a there was an event once that I did, and I remember I was standing at the door of this venue as people were coming in, and I happened to meet this young woman, about 21 years old, who arrived with her mother. Later, I asked for a volunteer, and this young woman came up. I asked her if she had any pain or any other complaints, and she said that she didn't. And so I had her hold out her arm and I started asking if she had a trapped emotion. And the answer came back that she did. And the emotion was forlorn. Now, we use a chart of emotions to find these
Hmm.
trapped emotions, 60 emotions on the chart. But forlorn came up, and forlorn is kind of feeling all alone and hopeless and desolate. Um, and I needed to know even more, according to her subconscious mind. So I asked some more questions and found out that this had occurred in the first year of her life. And I asked her if she had any idea what that might be about. And she said no, she had no idea. But I remembered that she had arrived with her mother. So I looked out at the audience and there was her mother. And she was as pale as a ghost. And she had both hands covering her mouth and nose. And her eyes were like saucers. And I said, hey, do you have any idea what this might be about? And she was very embarrassed, but she said she thought maybe she did. She said that during those years when her daughter was a baby, she used to use cloth diapers. And one day she accidentally pinned her daughter to her diaper so that the diaper, the diaper pin went through her daughter's flesh, and she didn't know about it until she changed her the next time. And so I tested to see if that's what it was, and that's exactly what it was. And I released it. And she went back and sat down. About 10 days later, I got an email from this girl's mother, and she said, listen, she said, my daughter's had a problem with her gait, with pain in her hip and in her knee for about 8 or 9 years now, I think it was. And she said, it's been gradually getting worse, and we've taken her to different people, but nobody's been able to fix it. But she said, the moment you release that trapped emotion of forlorn from age 1, the pain's been completely gone. And I waited for 10 days to see if it was going to come back, and it's not coming back apparently. So I wanted you to know, she said, my daughter's also feeling this new sense of lightness of being that she hasn't felt before. There's a great example, see, of how the subconscious mind remembers everything. She had
Hmm.
no conscious memory. In fact, her mother had never told her that that had happened until that very moment.
You know what's fascinating in this next issue of the magazine, we're going to have your piece, obviously, and we're going to have a piece on Joseph Murphy, The Power of the Subconscious Mind, an Irish
Oh,
author who
fantastic.
wrote that book. Do you know about that book? It was written in the
Absolutely.
80s.
Yeah, I've
It's a
listened to it.
stunning book. Yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to it before. It's a fantastic book. I think an absolute classic
Mm.
on the topic.
I'm actually going to reread it. And I want to talk to you now about the heart wall. Okay, so that's a big part of your work, and obviously the new book being called The Heart Code. Let's
Mhm.
let's track where that's all going, Bradley. Why, like, is a heart wall, like, I believe you can't remove that too quickly. That's what people are telling me here in Ireland. Is that true? You need to be careful with the heart wall.
Well, the subconscious mind won't let you remove the heart wall unless it's okay with that. And so when I was in practice, what I found was that uh, I would I would usually try to put out a fire if someone had some kind of a problem going on that was really painful, really bothering them. I'd try to fix that
Mm.
first. Then I would go straight to the heart wall. The heart wall is an incredibly powerful concept. Now, the ancients believed that the heart was the seat of the soul and the source of love and creativity and romance and the core of our being. And in the West, we have largely ignored those ancient ideas, thinking of them as mere poetic license, I think, for the most part. But we now are developing instrumentation that is showing us that the heart is the most powerful organ in the body. And when doctors started doing heart transplants back in the 1960s, it didn't take too long after heart transplants became routine that doctors noticed a strange phenomenon that pretty frequently patients would come back to them and they would report that their life had changed in some strange ways, that their taste in music or food or sports had completely altered, sometimes to the absolute opposite of where they had been before. And sometimes these people would have memories of being in places that they never in their life had ever visited. And when these people were connected with the family of the heart donor, they would inevitably find that the family would say things to them like, well, yes, our son was a baseball player and now you love baseball where you didn't care for it before. Or, yes, our daughter visited Rome every year. It was her favorite city in the world. And now you have memories of being in Rome, but you've never in your life ever visited
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So those are her memories that came with her heart. How weird is that? Well, we now know that the heart has a completely separate nervous system from the nervous system in the rest of the body. It's referred to as the little brain in the heart. There are 40,000 neurons in there. And those neurons, gray matter and white matter, just like the brain in your head, apparently store the memories of our true affinities, the things we really care about, the things we really love are stored in the heart. So when the heart gets transplanted to another person, those memories go with it. And it's an amazing thing. You know, the ancient societies believed that the heart was all of those things that I mentioned. And in the Bible, it talks about the heart. The heart's mentioned almost 1,000 times in the Bible. And we read things like God doesn't look on the outward appearance of people, he looks on the heart. Or uh, as a man thinks in his heart, so he will be, right? Things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Well, what we have found is that when you feel like your heart is going to break, and if you think back on your life to a time when you were really deeply grieved, or if you were being injured or hurt in some way, um, there's a physical sensation that goes along with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You can literally feel like your heart is going to break, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If that happens to you at least once or maybe twice, the subconscious mind will start to build a wall around that heart. And that wall is literally made of energy, pure energy, the energy of your emotional baggage. And one of the very first people that I worked on after this was really shown to us, it was a remarkable thing that I explain in the Heart Code book and in the Emotion Code and Body Code as well. One of the very first people that we saw was a woman that she was 38 years old. She came to see me because she had neck pain. It was about a 9 on a 0 to 10 scale. And she said that she had not dated in 8 years and she was never going to date again. She was celibate, basically. And and I said, well, why do you feel that way? She said that 8 years before, she was really deeply in love with this guy that dumped her and broke her heart. And that was it. She was never going to date again. So I tested her and found she had a heart wall. Now her neck is why she came in. Her neck's a 9 on a 0 to 10. She's had a couple of different doctors look at it. They're not helping her. So she comes in to see me. I find she's got a heart wall, three emotional layers, three trapped emotional energies, all from the breakup 8 years before. Grief and sadness, and I don't know what else. Can't remember. But when it cleared the last emotion from that heart wall, suddenly the neck pain went from a 9 to a 0, just instantly. And she left the office feeling totally fine and was so happy. 3 months later, she comes back into the office. And I'll always remember this. I saw her in my hallway and I said, how are you? What's going on? She said, everything is better. She said, my neck has been fine since I was here. But she said, you cleared that heart wall for me and that really works. She said, about 2 weeks after I was here, I found out my childhood sweetheart has been living right around the corner from me for almost 8 years. And we're dating and we're in love. And I think he's going to ask me to marry him. Right. And I
Wow.
thought, wow, I thought you were celibate. Not, not anymore. And so,
Yeah, it's so rewarding to hear these stories for you, I'd say. Wow.
well, it's amazing. We've got thousands of these stories from all over the world. You see, the reality of it is the ancient peoples were right. The heart is the seat of the soul and our source of love and creativity and romance and everything else. But in the world that we live in now, 9 out of 10 people have built up this wall around the heart. And so we knew when the Emotion Code book first came out in 2007 that eventually we would write another book just about this topic, just about the heart wall, because
Mm.
this information has got to get out to the world. People have to know that by getting rid of that wall, their life can change. And it's not a difficult thing. You know, we've got thousands of testimonials from all over the world of people falling in love who never thought they would, people whose creative abilities have begun to blossom and flourish spontaneously when that wall is taken down. Um, it's the most amazing thing. In fact, funny story I heard just a couple of weeks ago from one of our practitioners. She said that she worked on this elderly woman in her mid mid to late 80s, I believe, who had never, she was a spinster. She'd never been in love, never had a relationship her whole entire life. And she had a heart wall. And so this practitioner cleared this woman's heart wall. And within just a few days, she was in love for the first time in her whole life with a man who lived a few doors down in the nursing home. So there's no limit really on what can happen.
It's very obvious, Bradley, that there's a shift in consciousness happening on the planet. I think you'll agree with that. I think most people will agree with that. How do you see this work? Do you see this work as a big part of that shift?
It's absolutely, I think it's a critical component to that shift. The way I see it, the earth is in labor, trying to give birth to this new world that is going to be a world that is going to be based on unconditional love. The old world, the way everything has been working all this time for all of these ages, uh, its time is up, really. And
It's like a massive heart wall around the planet, right?
kind of, yeah, yeah. So yeah, this work is key. You know, my wife and I have traveled all over the world and have done seminars in many countries for many years now, since 1998. And you know, in different places around the world, different people have come up to us and they've told us, you know, things like, I had a near death experience, or I had a vision, or I had a dream, and I saw this work change the world. And the world has to change. And if you think about it, um, we have two brains, right? We've got a brain in our head, which really feels nothing. This brain in our head is just based on logic and doesn't really feel anything. Now, then we've got a brain in the heart, and that's where we feel, and that's where we love and where we receive love. Well, all the great teachers, I think, from Jesus to all of them, I think we're all trying to point us in the direction of living from the heart, living a life based on unconditional love and total acceptance. Well, total acceptance is the fruit of unconditional love, you see. And when that wall is taken down, it becomes much easier to feel love, to give love, to receive love. In fact, we have testimonials in the new Heart Code book where you'll read people talk about how for the first time in their whole life, when that wall was taken down, they were able to understand what love felt like or what it felt like to feel joy. And many times people have told us that for the first time in their life, when that wall was taken down, they could feel the love of God for them. Think how profound that is. But
Mm.
realize that 9 out of 10 people are walking around with this big wall around their heart. So it's very
Mm.
difficult for them to feel. And I mean,
Mm.
here you look at the world, it's 2025, right?
Mm.
And you'd think that by now mankind would have advanced, but we're still using war as an extension of
Yeah.
politics, right? We're
Mm.
still dropping bombs and thinking that that's okay. And it's because people in leadership positions are like most people, they've got a wall around their heart. So they're not really feeling anything. They're
Mm.
just using this analytical, logical brain, which has kind of gotten us to the point that we are now. But things are changing, and this is
Yeah.
part of that.
Yeah. So Bradley, we're close to finishing. Before we go, do you want to do you want to do a quick could we like take a couple of minutes and do a quick little demonstration of it, or
Yeah,
yeah, would
sure,
that be cool?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have, well, as you were talking, one that occurred to me. I have dry eye a very long time, a few years now, you know. And I'm
Okay.
wondering, is there an emotion behind that, holding that in place?
Well, there's a possibility there. Very,
Hmm.
very possible. Uh, Emotional energies are the first place we go. Um, so let's do this. Let me,
Because of course, just to say to people, yeah, you can do this remotely, right? You don't have to be, yeah, we just,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it absolutely works remotely just as well as it does live and in person. And that might seem strange, but when you realize
Okay.
that uh, Einstein and all these other amazing scientists have been telling us for all these years, oh, really over 100 years now, that this is our reality. We finally can wake up to that. So, how do you spell? Give me this the spelling on your name, and I'll make a note here for
Yeah,
you.
Paul is my name, and my surname is Condon, Congdon.
Congdon. Okay,
Yeah,
great. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, fantastic. And is it in both eyes?
yeah.
And it's been going on for how long?
I would say I have that about, yeah, I would say I have it about, oh, wow, what am I now? So I'm 50, so yeah, so I've had it about 10 years probably.
Okay. All right. And you're 50 now?
57.
57. Okay. All right. Well, let me do this. If I could share my screen, that'd be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. That'll make it easier for me to explain
Mm-hmm.
everything. Let's see. Where's my Zoom? There it is. Here we go.
We can go on gallery.
Okay. I
Oh,
sent a
okay. Yeah,
request to
yeah,
share.
yeah. Got you
There we
there.
go. Okay, fantastic. All right, here we go. So what we have here on the left
Oh,
side,
great, great. This is great. Okay.
yeah.
So
So we
people
got
could really
the
get a sense of this now.
Yeah, exactly. So we got the emotion code chart on the left, and I'm just going to take some notes here on the right side, and I'll just blow this up a little bit bigger and get rid of that. Okay, good. I think we're in business. Um, all right. So here we go. So what we like to do. Oh, hold on.
Is track it, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the font's big enough that people can see it. Oh, okay. All right. Now, so Paul, what we teach people is that
Fantastic.
you want to make a connection with the higher power before you do this as the practitioner.
Hmm.
So you you feel free to do this as well if you want to. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and ask for some help. All right, awesome. So here we go. I'm going to be using what we call the ring in ring method of testing. Now, there's different methods of muscle testing. Um, and this one is easy because you'll be able to see if on a yes answer, as I try to pull my fingers apart, they'll stay
Hmm.
together. On a no answer, my body will weaken slightly and the rings will break. Okay. Now, quantum physics is very strange. The great physicist Richard Feynman said, if you don't think quantum physics is weird, you don't understand quantum physics. One of the weird things is that energies can become entangled at vast distances. And so we call this acting as proxy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask if I can act as proxy for you right now, and I get a yes answer. The human body has this amazing ability built right into it to set aside its own needs to act on behalf of someone else. And so we're going to ask questions now. And the first question is do you have a trapped emotion that we can release that's contributing to this dry eye that you have been dealing with? And the answer there is yes. So now we
Hmm.
have our chart of emotions. Now, I have no idea what the emotion is. And consciously, you don't have any idea, but your subconscious mind is the source of truth here. It knows exactly what the emotion is, when it occurred, who was involved, everything about it. But your subconscious is saying, yes, there is a trapped emotion. So is this emotion in column A? No, it's in column B. Is it in one of the odd rows? Yes. Is it in row one? No. Row three. Row three, column B. So it's one of these emotions. So we just narrowed it down from 60 emotions to five. You see how fast that
Hmm.
was. And
Wow.
this is one of the amazing things about the emotion code is that it's so quick. I'd love to take credit for it, but I just work here. I'm just the teacher. This is really, from up above. So, is the emotion confusion? No. Is it defensiveness? No. Is it grief? No. Is it self abuse? No. Is it stubbornness? No. Okay. So those were all weak. And what that means is that this was an inherited trapped emotion.
Oh.
And I mentioned those. So is this inherited confusion or defensiveness or grief? It's an inherited emotion of grief. And where'd you get this from? When you were conceived, did you get this from your father? No, this came from your mother. Now, did she receive it from somebody earlier? Yes. From her mother? Yep. All right. And does it go back further from there? Yes. How many generations from you? Does it go back 10 generations? Yes. 15, no. 14, it goes back 14 generations, or roughly back to about 1657 AD, give or take probably 30 years or so. And did this originate with a male? No, it started with a female. So this is definitely, in the female line, I would say.
Mhm.
Isn't that interesting? So this is an antique, this energy, and you've been
Wow.
carrying this your whole life, really. But now
Mm-hmm.
your subconscious mind is saying, yeah, this is part of the reason for the dry eye. Well, why is that? Well, why is it just showing up, for the last 10 years? I don't know. Sometimes these emotional energies show up, I think, based on when they actually became trapped in the body of the ancestor. In this
Okay.
case, it may just be that you've had that all these years, but as you get older, your margin of error thins a little bit. And then
Mm-hmm.
things that your body used to be able to deal with now suddenly appear as symptoms. I'm going to release this now, but let me ask you, Paul, do you have kids?
No.
Okay. All right. Because if you did, we could ask if any of
Okay,
your
if it's
kids
passed
received
on.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's go ahead and release this. Now to release it, we use the governing meridian, right? And I'm just going to pass my hand uh, 10 times over that governing meridian with an intention to release that emotional energy. And that's how easy it is. And when you clear one of these energies, it is gone forever. It's a permanent release, kind of like taking a credit card out of your wallet and then rubbing a magnet on the magnetic strip that has all that data encoded. That information's never coming back. That's how this is too. So let's ask, did we release that inherited emotion of grief from you? Yes. Did it also release from your mom? Yep. And her mom and from all those other ancestors all the way back? Yes. So cool. So that was one thing. Now let's just for fun here, let's ask.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me get rid of that. Da-da. Trying to get rid of that thing and it doesn't want to go away. Let me get that out of the way. There we go. All right. So now let's ask, um, is there another trapped emotion we can release that is contributing to this dry eye issue? And the answer is yes. Is it in column A? Yes. Is it in one of the odd rows? No. So is it in row 2? No. Row 4? Row 4. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
same row. Is the emotion anger? No. Is it bitterness? No. Is it guilt? No. Hatred? No. Is it resentment? No. So this is another
Another one.
inherited
Okay.
emotion. Yeah. So this is interesting. So let's see what it is. Is it inherited anger? Is it inherited bitterness or guilt, hatred, or resentment? It's an inherited emotion of resentment, probably for the Brits. you know, I mean, who knows?
Okay.
But
You'd be here for the rest of your life releasing that stuff. Okay.
maybe. All right. So let's see here. Did you get this from your father? No, this also came from your mom. Did she get it from somebody earlier? Yes, from her mom. No, this came through your mother's father. So different line, kind of. And how does it go back even further? Yes. How many generations?
Mm-hmm.
5, 10, 15, 20 generations? 16 goes, this one goes back exactly 15 generations, or roughly 1631, give or take, plus or minus. I don't know. Did this start with a female? This started with a male, and the emotion was resentment. All right, cool. Let's go ahead and release this one. All right. And do we release that from you? Did it clear from your mother and her father and everybody else up the line? Yes. And it's a strange thing in quantum physics. One energy has been found to be able to exist in more than one place at one time, essentially. That's the
Hmm.
theoretical thing. And so what we believe about these is that these are a kind of shared emotional energy where it's really just one energy, even though it may go back hundreds of years.
Mm.
And if you release that energy from any person living that is sharing that with people that are dead, it clears from everybody all in one shot. So there's a party going on the other side. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
So, so let's do one more. If there is one, let's ask, do you have another trapped emotion we can release that's contributing to this dry eye that you've been dealing with? Actually, the answer there is no. But just for
Okay.
but just for fun, let's go to the body code. And the body code is
Hmm.
how we can find all kinds of other things, um, including emotions. And is there anything in the body code that is contributing to this problem with dry eye for you? Not right now. There could be something that might show up later, but right now your subconscious mind is saying, nope, that's
Okay.
everything that's causing this for now. So, what I would expect here, Paul, is that this is probably going to just go away. It may take a few days.
Okay.
Um, and if it doesn't go away, then it'll probably mean that it will mean that there are some other imbalances going on.
Hmm.
And so you might need to get another session. But yeah, this is how we would do it, and this is how it's done at a distance. And it's really easy and really fun. And we've certified now over 15,000 people as emotion code practitioners. And the beauty of that is that these people that are all over, our website is at Discover Healing, by the way.
Hmm.
These people that are all over the world actually uh, are working with other people in other countries and getting great results. And the nice thing is AI is never going to take their job because,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah, brilliant.
it's
Brilliant.
never going to be able to do what these people do.
That's fantastic, Bradley. Thank you for that. That was really, I'm amazed at how you were able to show all that so easily for people. That's brilliant.
Yeah, well,
And yeah, we host regular events. We've had Bruce Lipton and we've had people like that. And we're actually hosting Lynne McTaggat this weekend. You know Lynn? She does The Power of Intention.
yeah, I've met Lynne. I was just talking to Bruce last night, in fact.
Oh, wow. Okay. You
Um,
guys are friends.
oh yeah, absolutely. And Greg
Yeah.
Braden, do you know Greg too?
I know Greg. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Well, I need to get on your speaking circuit and
that's
come
what I was going to
come
say to you.
visit.
So, if you want to come to Ireland maybe next year, we could hook something up, yeah?
That would be amazing. I would absolutely love to. I can't wait. In fact, you know what? I need to share something with you.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll try not to get emotional as I do this, but in 2008, when we came to Dublin, um, I taught the seminar. We had about, I don't know, maybe 30, 40, 50 people there. And it was the very end of this event. And I was wrapping up. And all of a sudden, I could feel that there were all these people gathered around me. And I couldn't see anybody, but I knew who they were. They were my family, right? My ancestors from Ireland. And it was the strangest experience. I felt like I was home, like I was home. That I'd never been to Ireland before, but I just felt like I was home. And I mean, tears filled my eyes, and I just thought, how can I leave? It was the most amazing experience. So I can't wait to come back. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. I didn't expect you to say something like that. So you haven't been here since 2008?
Let's see. I think we did we come back and do another event? I think we came back once, but I don't think we did another event really. I think that was the last one. So yeah, I can't wait to come back. So absolutely. Reach out to Lacey, okay, my
Yeah,
assistant.
I'm
Yeah.
connected. And just before we go, tell people where they can find you, Bradley, as well. What's the best place? And if they want to train and what should they do? Yes, and I think you're in this will go out before you're in. I think you're going to Switzerland. Now, where are you going? Um,
Yeah, well, I'll
yeah,
be in, let's see, I will be at the Find
yeah,
Your Flow
Switzerland.
Summit.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I'll be speaking in English there because I mean, I do speak Italian, but not that well anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, anybody that wants to come to this, that'll be in Basel in Switzerland. This is on our website at discoverhealing.com. And then we have events going on. You click on the event tab. um yes, also, of course, you can find out a lot more about what we're doing here. We have certification in the emotion code, body code, and belief code, and provides a really wonderful training in these methods. And then it can give you a way to make a living that is AI proof, and that will be so rewarding, because there's nothing better than helping people to heal in this incredibly natural, incredibly powerful way. There's just nothing else like it. It's very addicting, but in a really good way. And you sleep really, really well at night, because you don't have to worry that you are not making a difference in the world, because you would be. So anyway,
Uh, yeah, thank you, Bradley, for doing this today. This was fantastic. Anybody out there, this is just an amazing conversation. It just felt so sincere and so pure, and I really enjoyed it. And if my dry eye disappears in the next few days, I will be back on here doing videos
yeah,
left, right, and center about this. So,
yes, do.
Bradley Nelson, a real pleasure. And to talk to you in your closet with your white shoes in the background has been a trip.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bradley. Okay,
Thank you,
see you,
Paul.
everybody. Bye bye.